All right, so basically the other day I saw Lil Yachty tweet something about the current state of rap being boring, and I've seen it quite a bit actually. I've seen it from a bunch of people, not just Lil Yachty, and basically the whole argument is, yo, rap has gone boring. It's not as creative as it used to be. People are just doing the same thing. Everyone's copying each other. There's no originality. No one's putting work into their music anymore. Everyone's just doing something that's already been done, and the overall consensus is that, yo, it's just not exciting. Like, it's just not that exciting to find new rappers. And I kind of wanted to apply this to underground rap, but I also will just speak on mainstream rap. And what they're talking about is, like, if you look at the mainstream rap scene right now, there's really nothing. Like, there's no one. I mean, there are a couple artists that are cool, but it's not like 2017 or 2018 or 2020 even, or especially like 2016, 2017, where there were just so many artists doing their own thing, and there were so many different lanes intersecting, and there are all these different worlds just merging. And there were just so many different styles of rap that were doing really well on the charts. I think there hasn't been a number one rap single, or since that Drake and J. Cole song, there wasn't a number one rap single for almost the entirety of 2023, which is crazy to think about. So rap may be on the decline, and I've heard part of this is because labels don't want to invest money into people, especially rappers, because they don't get the same return on them as they do with pop stars, or I guess just people of other genres. And I guess they have the data for that. But let's talk about this with just like new generation underground rap. It doesn't even need to be super underground, because underground rap will always be different, right? Like, that's kind of like what it is. That's why people are attracted to it. It's different. It's just not as popular, and you believe in them as an artist, so you think, yo, they're gonna go up. I feel like he's kind of right. You know, if you look at what's coming up, what's there right now, it's like Ken Carson, Destroy Lonely, Summers, Autumn, that kind of wave, and there's not much after that. And the other people that are in that scene aren't super original. There are a couple young people that are original, but a lot of them are just copying. For example, I'm not trying to hate, but a good example of this is Dom Corleo. Like, Dom Corleo is not that original. There are a ton of artists that are like that. I'm just saying his name because it just popped up in my head. But, you know, especially think back when Rage started blowing up. Trippie Redd had missed the Rage, and, you know, sure, he had that hit song, so I guess, of course, you know, he has the right to make a whole album and milk it. But after that Mr. Rage song dropped, Rage became the most annoying thing ever in the underground. Like, Rage used to be a cool sound if you think about it, before it was called Rage. Like, I guess it was like Pure Born would make beats like that and stuff like that. And if you heard Cardi on a quote unquote Rage beat, or any other underground artist or just rapper in general, pre Mr. Rage, you would think, yo, this is a pretty cool beat. But someone, Trippie Redd in this case, used it, ran with it, did really well. Everyone was like, yo, that's cool. Producers started making mad Rage beats. Rappers started hopping on mad Rage beats. I think K Suave like almost made his career off of Rage beats. No offense to him, you know, there's good music and stuff, but like, it just got really, really, really stale. And that's kind of what's happening. Like, after a Whole Lotta Red, everyone just started hopping on those type of, on like Cardi beats, not Whole Lotta Red type beats, just like Cardi beats in general. And the whole underground has just been influenced by like Ken Carson type beats and Cardi beats. Literally everyone. Sometimes even unknowingly. Literally, I'm pretty sure Can and Ken Carson, Can was hopping on Ken Carson beats unknowingly. He thought his producers were just on some new wave. I guess he just like doesn't listen to other people's music. He just listened to his friends' music. So he thought like those beats were like his own type beats. And Ken Carson was like, nah, bro, you're hopping on the wave. And they had their little beef. And he was just like, F you, screw you. I'm on my own thing, whatever. And I guess they never like resolved it or anything. And he wasn't really wrong either. Like, you know, you don't own a certain sound. But he didn't even know he was copying someone else, and his stuff was a bit stale. Another reason why I feel like there's so few people like innovating or doing something new is like, everyone is being inspired by previous generations, except they're not really generations. For example, when people from 2015 or 2016 or like 2010 and onwards, or 2014, 2017-ish were coming up, and when they were underground, they were inspired by people who they listened to like as a child, who are a lot older than them. So there's a lot more of a barrier and a lot more of a gap for them to close, and they closed it, and their stuff was so creative, it's crazy. A lot of the people these days, the people they were listening to, and there's nothing wrong with it, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not hating on, you know, people listening to stuff like that, because I'm like that. They listen to people like Cardi and Uzi, and that's all they really listen to. Like, they didn't listen to anything else. So for them, that's their point of reference. So they're not going to be that much different. They're just going to be like a bit different. They're just gonna have their own little spin on it, and it's not gonna sound that different to most people. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of rappers that are coming up right now that they've only listened to like, they're like my age. So when they were in middle school and elementary school, they were listening to like Cardi, Uzi, and that was right when like in the mainstream at least, the lyrical, schmirical, more traditional hip hop started weaning down, and more like newer, new gen rap started going up in stock at least. So they were listening to people like that. I'm just saying Cardi and Uzi as examples. They're like more extreme examples, but they're just not listening to people that were more traditional or just other artists or just other art genres in general. So when they make music, it's super similar to other people's music. For example, right now there's this huge wave, glow music in the underground, and people are just taking what Chief Keef did before with Young Chop. Really shout out to the producers because they made that sound. They're just taking those type of beats and just hopping on it. And yeah, it's hard and it's cool, and it's kind of like they're like paying homage, right? So it's cool, and you know, who doesn't like Chief Keef? And they're putting their own spin on it, and it's nice and everything, but it's not that cool, you know what I mean? Or it's just, it could be better, or as Lil Yachty and all these other old heads, or not even old heads. He's like a middle-aged head, if you know what I mean. He's like not too old, not too young. He's like old enough to where, you know, you can kind of respect him that he's older, but he's not like old. He's still young, right? That's what they're saying. They're like, yo, these people are not innovating, or they're just not doing something that crazy or that different. And I kind of agree with them. You know, this whole Chief Keef hopping on like that type of stuff, or like hopping on older type beats and just trying to like renew these waves isn't that crazy to me. And that's actually why some artists like Che, I don't know if you've heard of him, or like just other artists in general, Che gets a lot of hate. He's actually like, what he's doing is pretty cool because, you know, he kind of has his own sound. You know, what Some Six is doing with his whole producers and stuff. I think Nate XO, shout out those guys. And of course, people like Summers and Autumn, that's one of the reasons why they got so big, because they created Plug and B and like Wildin'. Like a lot of the people that are really big in the underground, they're big because they did innovate. But for the most part, someone like them, like, you know, someone like Summers, Autumn, Wildin', whoever I named before, will do something new, and then everyone will just copy them rather than doing something new. And they think they'll be different. Like they think they're different because they're just doing underground stuff, but they're not actually different. They're just copying people from the underground instead of copying people from the mainstream. So it's like this weird complex they have in their head. And what this really boils down to is like stuck culture. I think I was reading something the other day on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter or Reddit or something. And they're basically talking about how like no one is really making anything new. Like everyone is really stuck right now. I think they were talking about how Machine Gun Kelly just brought back 2000s, whatever the genre is. It's like rock. It's not coming into my head. Or like Olivia Rodrigo, I think in her song Good For You, like it sounded like Paramore, which is like a rock band from way before. And even that, indirectly, they don't even know. A lot of that entire like emo rock, emo rap stuff was started by people like Lil Peep and people who really did innovate in the underground. And then everyone just started copying them. So what he's saying is right, and I definitely agree with him. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Like, do you think that underground rap or just rap in general is getting stale? Or is it like just this thing that people aren't able to find good music? Because I do want to make it clear, like, there's plenty of good music. Like, I find tons of good music every day, like always. Like if you go on SoundCloud, there's so many great artists and so many great songs, and so many great producers that are all doing their own thing and different. They just don't get that much recognition. But what he's talking about is just the general state, like the people who are popular right now. So when you think about like an 18-year-old kid and he's into like newer type of rap, right? Just like stuff that's more progressive. So like, what is he listening to? He's listening to like Ken Carson. He's listening to Destroy Lonely, and he's listening to like Summers. That's what people are thinking of. And to be fair, they're not that original, except Summers. Summers is really original. But I mean, for the most part, there isn't much for them to like really point towards. For example, Ken Carson and Opium and Playboi Carti. Carti had a sound, it like trickled down to like Ken Carson. They signed Destroy Lonely, who had his own sound. He hopped on that sound too. And then they also signed other artists like Homicide Gang, and they also drop on that song. And yeah, they have their own, you know, one is more aggressive. Destroy Lonely did this thing with guitar beats. But, you know, for the most part, they're hopping on a lot of the similar or same type of beats. Like, the sound is very similar. So, to an outsider looking in or someone a bit older, they're just like, yo, this is all the same. Where back in the day, you could look at all these different artists and they'd all have different sounds. Like, XXXTentacion was completely different from, you know, Lil Uzi and so on. You know, the people from Atlanta, they all had their own little thing. People from Florida all had their own little thing. People from, you know, wherever, location, side of the internet, they all had their own little thing. And now it's all kind of become a melting pot, and everyone's just been doing the same thing, and it's just, there's just not much variety. There's just not much new stuff. So I definitely agree with them, and I just want to know your thoughts. Kind of random video. Hope you enjoyed the Fortnite gameplay I brought back. A lot of people were asking for it. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. See you next time.